This is 7.25. We're going to be graphing rational equations. We're going to continue to graph these rational functions. As a reminder, we want to find these different things. It just kind of helps us. The important ones are the vertical asymptotes and holes. It helps us to reduce our function. It just makes it easier to plug values in. And then make sure that we find the horizontal and slat asymptotes. Once we do that, you create an X and Y table, plot some points, and graph it. So let's look at this function here. Okay, so let's determine our vertical asymptotes and holes. Now to do that, we should factor. So this bottom one factors into x minus 3 and x minus 1. Now the top I can factor out a negative. And so then that should factor into negative x plus 4 x minus 3. Now the x minus 3's cancel out, so that tells me that's a hole. And so that's a hole at x equals 3 because you set x minus 3 equal to 0. You solve for it. And then we're left with this on the bottom, so that's a vertical asymptote. And so now it's reduced, and so looking at our reduced function, I'm going to have negative x plus 4 over x minus 1. Okay, so let's put that information on our graph. So I have my vertical asymptote at 1. And then my horizontal asymptote, if I compare the leading terms, it's negative x over x, or if I look at the original, negative x squared over x squared, they're both going to get me y equals negative 1. So now all I need to do is just plot some points. So picking values like 2, 3, and 4, and then values like 0, negative 1, and negative 2 are going to be helpful. So if I plug in 2, it's going to give me negative 6. Now at 3 is my hole. And so if I plug in 3, I just need to remember I draw a hole for it. So if I plug in 3, so negative 3 plus 4 over 3 minus 1, that's going to give me negative 3.5. If I plug in 4, that's negative 2.66. If I plug in 0, so that's negative 0 plus 4 over 0 minus 1, that's going to give me 4. If I plugged in negative 1, so that'll be negative 1 plus 4 over negative 1 minus 1. That's going to give me 1.5. And then negative 2 plus 4 over negative 2 minus 1. That'll give me 2/3. So now all I need to do is just plot it. So at 2, it's negative 6. At 3, it's negative 3.5, but that's a hole. So that's normally going to be there. So I'm going to just draw a hole there. And then at 4, it's negative 2.66. So that's about right here. Now drawing it, it wants to hug the asymptotes. Hug the asymptotes. And then on the other side, at 0, it's 4. At negative 1, it's 1.5. And then at negative 2, it's 2/3. And so I have that. And just remember, emphasize that there's a hole there. And that's at where 3 was. So anywhere the graph is at 3, you just have that open circle there. So for our next one, so again, we need to find the vertical asymptotes and holes. So if I factor out that negative, I get negative parentheses x minus 3. This factors into x plus 4, x minus 3. So the x minus 3's cancel out. So you're left with negative 1 over x plus 4. So I have a hole where x is 3. I have a vertical asymptote. Set that equal to 0 at x equals negative 4. And then the bottom degree is bigger, so my horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. So let's plot those. So vertical asymptote at negative 4, and then a horizontal asymptote at 0. So the values on this side of my vertical asymptote, we're looking at negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. Values on that side of my vertical asymptote, I'm looking at negative 3, negative 2, and negative 1. And then we just have to remember a hole at 3. So there's a hole somewhere over here where x is 3. So plugging in negative 5. So that's going to be negative 1 over negative 5 plus 4. That's negative 1 over negative 1, so that's 1. If I plugged in negative 6, that's going to give me 0.5. If I plugged in, that might be enough. Let's take a look. Well, let's do negative 7. So if I do negative 1 over negative 7 plus 4, that's going to be a third. Okay, so a third or 0.33. If I plugged in negative 3, so that's negative 1 over negative 3 plus 4, that's going to give me negative 1. If I plugged in negative 2, so that's negative 2 plus 4, that's going to give me negative 1/2. And then if I plugged in negative 1, that's going to give me a negative third. So that's negative 0.33. So plotting it, at negative 5 is 1, at negative 6 is a half, at negative 7 is a third. Okay, so remember, when we draw it, they are hugging the asymptotes. And then at negative 3, it's negative 1. At negative 2, it's negative 1/2. And then again, hugging the asymptotes. I'm going to draw that a little smoother. Now at 3, there's a hole. We just can't forget it. So I just need to make sure I do an open circle there to signify the hole. So what did we learn today? We again graphed rational functions. We may have to do some reducing with it. Just make sure that we pay attention to the vertical asymptotes, the holes, and the horizontal asymptotes. This does conclude our lesson. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments.